It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another Real Estate Breakfast across our Sunday. How is your property hunting going? Well, it's always nice to hear through the many emails that we receive, or you might just want to let us know from where in Australia or indeed around the globe that you are listening to us from. We are talking Sunday property again. It is May the 18th. And this week on the Best of the Real Estate Breakfast, on Monday, we spoke to Laura Ryan in Sydney. Interesting story with Laura. She decided to turn a tiny old workers' cottage in Sydney's Newtown into a fully off-grid home. She was told by many, you just can't do it, it's too small. She didn't listen, she kept going, and we'll bring you that conversation in just a moment. We also spoke to Karuna Mazzocchi, the CEO of property business for the Karuna Group. Shannon Harvey was also here from Place Real Estate, talking about the expanding location of Bulimba in Brisbane. I also talked about AI, and I threw up for Mario and Lillian, who are both real estate agents, that AI would replace real estate agents in time. They were not buying into it until I threw into the mix the Ford Model T. So all of that with the best of the Real Estate Breakfast is next.
We are your local source for unbiased, expert insights into the world of real estate. We are not a real estate company. Our only objective is to help you better understand the real estate market.
So the goal was to be as sustainable as possible on a very small block, because most of us live in the city on very small blocks, and we also don't have, millions and millions of dollars to build huge houses in Byron Bay that are sustainable. The whole goal was to try and see how sustainable I could be on the smallest and worst possible block possible. Yeah, only 104 square metres, and, every architect and engineer and tradie that I spoke to, essentially told me that what I was trying to do was too difficult, going off grid for the sewer, so not connecting my toilet to the sewer and using my own water, and then going off grid for electricity. They just said the space was too small.
So how sort of disillusioned were you? Because you spoke to many builders, architects, and they're all saying, you're dreaming, it's not going to work until you actually did find the right people. You must have been sort of second guessing yourself, thinking, well, hang on, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I am dreaming.
Yeah, I guess halfway through the project, I just wasn't getting anywhere with the water harvesting and water recycling solution. And that was definitely a very low point for me. And I was starting to think if I was a special kind of idiot for continuing to pursue this project. But I also know that, people told me I couldn't do things when it came to my employment and other projects that I'd worked on that weren't in the building industry. And so I just kept pushing and persisting. And I'm really glad that I did, because I'm quite proud of the outcome now.
It's a really good story, because people will be doing this right now in one way or another. They will be told, well, you can't do that. That sort of property is not going to work on that available plot size. It's just too small, it's too tiny, etc., etc. But you say, what to these people?
Maybe talk to me, because I can then point them in the right direction of the right people, because that's key to this kind of project. You need to find the people that are qualified, but also who will say to you, well, I'm not quite sure, but I'll give it a go, and, I respect your vision and your goals here, rather than just an outright no. So you want the people that will hustle with you. You want them to push and see where you can get to.
So have you got these suppliers that you can pass on? So if somebody's in a similar situation, they go to your website, they start talking to you, you've got suppliers that you can recommend and say, well, this is who I used. These people said, yes, it can be done. And is it a little bit of a one-stop shop?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. So, the builder, the architect, the engineer that helped with water recycling and harvesting solution, and the plumbers, all the suppliers for the cabinetry and the wallpaper and furniture and, almost everything's up there if you want to have a look for it. And if I haven't got it up there yet, it'll be up there at some stage. And if it's not up there, then just ask me and I'll tell you who I've used.
So how much interest have you sort of discovered as a result of this story from Domain?
Yeah, quite a bit. The house was also on an episode of Grand Designs, so I got quite a bit more interest after that as well. And then on Sunday we had Sustainable House Day, and there was quite a big turnout for each session there. So I'm definitely seeing that people are interested in being sustainable, and the feedback that I get is often, it's very difficult to know where to start and to know when, somebody's not greenwashing, and, I definitely want to help with that.
Now, question here, all these builders, all these architects that said, you're dreaming, Laura, you'll never get it done. You got the thing done, you're on television. Have any of them come back saying, I slightly got that wrong?
No, they haven't. That's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Grab your weekly dose of inspiration to help build a real estate portfolio. We talk to the best in the business every day. Learn from the professionals and know your property with us.
You're helping these agents become business owners. Karuna allows individuals to set up while still operating under your brand. So that's always a sort of a bit of a balancing act, isn't it?
It surely is. I think that one thing that top performing agents have is obviously they're writing, good numbers. They've got very high standards and great customer service, but they might not necessarily know how to get in and get started. And they need, some bumper rails at the start with, giving support on how to grow a rent roll, how to get other reoccurring revenue streams in, and how to make sure that they're getting sustainable growth. And then also the back end support. So that's things like how do you help them with their general accounts, their, payroll, trust accounting, marketing, contracts administration, all the, things that they might not be proficient at that start, and giving that to them until they don't no longer need it, and sort of watching their growth journey and them handing it back as they feel confident and more autonomous. And that's what we're doing. So it really underpins their growth, which is why every business has grown their revenue over the time and been profitable in that first 12 months, as I said before, which I love to see because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's interesting because you raise this point. If you're a top-selling agent, if you're writing tons and tons of business, first thing you do is you get an executive person to sort of manage you or manage all the back-end stuff, and they become the office manager guru that's able to connect all of those pieces. You go out and you sell. Now, you're interacting with people, but you're not doing all of that administrative stuff, and this can trip people up when they go into franchises. Yes, sure, they're fantastic agents, and that's what you're saying. It doesn't always transfer, so there's got to be some training done.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that a lot of the time they haven't been interested in getting to know that because they're passionate about helping clients and getting people sold and moved, and they need people that can help grow that skill set and underpin that. Because otherwise, if an agent wants to continue to write business and do that for a period of time, then if they haven't built a strong business where they've actually got an asset and looking after more clients, they have to stay on the tools for the rest of their life, which doesn't really create an opportunity for them to retire because they are the business. So they need to actually grow something, which is what we spend time training on them.
That's the fun part, really, for somebody like me. It's growing something that you didn't have before outside of yourself and then engaging with others. It's not for everybody. Some of these agents, they're quite perfectly happy generating plenty of money without having to deal with people.
That is true, but also at some point, unless you have been strategically investing your money, a lot of time people are spending more than they're earning, even if they're earning a lot of money. And they also need help around how to grow financial freedom and how that delivers them, a retirement plan in the future. And you're never too young to think about that, because the years go by very, very quickly. And we want to make sure that our team members and our franchisees that are here are actually growing a nest egg for themselves while looking after their clients and community. And that's why when people get into franchises, they're juggling so many balls, as we said. It can take them off what's important, which is first and foremost looking after their clients and continuing to grow their sales volumes, but also then they need to be growing other things on the side, which is where we deliver the support. I think we take away a lot of that stress from them for that first period of time, which helps them grow and expedite their growth faster.
And you've sort of come out and spoken publicly. I sort of want to change tack a little bit. You've spoken about the low number of women in top executive roles in property. Well, here you are. You're at the top of the tree, the CEO of the Karuna's Group. So you'd like to see more people like you.
I don't know if more people like me exactly, but definitely more women in leadership roles. I think a lot of times, some women don't put themselves out there, or they think that, they can't have a family and a, career, and, which one's going to sacrifice. And I would just encourage people to actually step up and put themselves out there and continue to believe in themselves and grow and take the opportunities when they're there. And that's one thing that I've noticed in our group, because there's probably belief when other women look at me and see what I have achieved over my time, 2 children, etc., and the CEO role, that they probably believe it's possible. And we have got just as many women business owners in our organisation as we do males, and half of our executive team is women and half of them are males, which I love to see that diversity and that challenging mindset and thinking outside the box, because it definitely does help bring other things to the forefront. And I'm loving watching that part of the business grow, and I'd love to see other businesses grow like that.
I mean, you might be right, but I still believe that AI, whilst it will enhance the efficiency and obviously the accuracy of real estate, the collaboration of what AI can do, coupled with what I believe is the irreplaceable human touch, is likely to be the norm. So sort of a mixture of the two. So hopefully this will create a more efficient, informed, but also empathetic market for both buyers and sellers alike, when both AI and the human agent kind of work together for the benefit of the client.
I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm on Mario's side. I just think that human connection is so important. I think we're going to pull through, even just in terms of, this podcast. I'd like to think that people listen to us because over the episodes, they've sort of developed this relationship with us. They could get the information from going on ChatGPT or online, but they like to hear our human voices and our opinions. I think that's really important.
I think this is probably the interesting one to think about. When the robots perfect standing up and looking like a human, you can compare that moment to the Ford Model T. Now, what I mean is, if you look at the early 1900s, there were about 21 million horses in the US and only 4,000 cars. But within a few years, that completely flipped. By 1912, cars had officially outnumbered horses. And the real game changer was the Ford Model T. In this conversation, the equivalent, AI. So when the Model T hit the market in 1908, cars became affordable for the average person. So the Model T definitely, I think, is going to be the equivalent of robots getting up and walking around and doing everything for us, including podcasts and being real estate agents.
I like to describe Bulimba as a bit of an island. We have water that wraps around 3/4 of it, and it makes us very isolated from the rest of Brisbane in the fact that there's sort of one way in, one way out. So it's a really nice suburb that's very relaxed, and it's got lots of nice community, nice cafes, restaurants, and it's very close to the city and also can get to the airport on the highway to the beaches very easily. So it's a lovely place to live.
Yes, it's very close, as you say, to Brisbane CBD. It is, in fact, just 4 k's away and also does offer ferry access. And what you say about the water wrapping around Bulimba does make it a highly sought-after suburb for both homeowners and investors. We should check on the median house price right now because I can tell you it's over $2 million, $2,050,000. And in the last 12 months, that has grown by 9.9%. Days on market around 50 days, and the rental yield on the housing market in Bulimba is 2.8%. Let's check on the unit median house price. Wow, look at that, $930,000. In the last 12 months, the unit market has grown by 14.3%, days on market 34, and the rental yield 4.2%. So I guess it's one of those suburbs in Australia, because of its price point, it is very, very hard to see first home buyers managing the mortgage required to buy.
We have a unique first home buyer market because we're not really in the price range of first home buyers. However, our suburb is very attractive, so it is a nice place to live, and sometimes we'll get parents helping people out to move into the area, or we'll get 2 first home buyers buying together to be able to afford something.
I know that plenty of people will be interested to know this. How much did you pay for your cottage? How much has it cost you? And what is it worth now?
So I paid around $1 million for it, or I shouldn't say around, it was exactly on the dot in 2016. And then I've probably spent around $1 million on the build, and that includes, battery and the solar, plus the extra addition, an extra floor, which has given me a whole extra room, and then, the living room and the new kitchen and the laundry out the back. But it also includes, all of those water tanks, the water recycling system, all the pumps, etc. And the total cost for the water was around $30,000. The toilet was very expensive. That was $8,000, and I probably wouldn't recommend getting an $8,000 toilet. I chose it years ago and then didn't realise it was so expensive, and then had built the house around it. I'd probably choose a composting toilet in the future, where you can get for some of them, $500. And then the solar, that was expensive because it includes a battery. So if you don't want to go off grid and you just want to get the solar, then, the big ticket item there is the battery. And usually with solar, payback periods are, 3, 4, 5 years. So it's much more cost effective at this time without a battery. I know that there's a cost of living crisis. So there were also lots of other things that I wanted to do in the build that were, budget friendly. So I recycled as much as I could from the existing build, which meant those things were free. So I've got, cabinetry and bookshelves from the old build. I've got tables that I cut in half and used as, hallway tables or tables in my bedroom. And just as much as I could try to select furnishings that were reused and upcycled from eBay or from, antique shops up the road. So, there are some things that I think were very expensive and went over the budget of what I wanted to do to make it more accessible to people. And then other things I think are probably accessible if you're on a very, very tight budget.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.